Ji, Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me? Is it loud enough or do you want a mic?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Okay, so it's okay without a mic?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so take out your reading King of the Castle, page 2.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. So if you remember, King of the Castle is that reading. Ji, you should.
मैम कौन सा पेज नंबर खोलना है?
ओके सो इफ यू रिमेंबर कि जो जिन लोगों ने पहले पैकेज ले लिया था उसमें थोड़ा सा आगे पीछे पेज नंबर्स हैं. यू हैव टू गो टू पेज नंबर 238 and for those who took it earlier it's going to be upside down. यानी होगा ये कि start ये हो रहा है right after the reading we did yesterday, right? 114 था, 114 page was the last page and the next one is 237. ठीक है? This is the reading which we're doing, King of the Castle by Gay Eaton. Choice and responsibility in the modern world. So you can imagine ये क्यों आपकी reading है, choice and responsibility. ठीक है? अब for you to know what's going on, you'll have to go to the end of the reading, which is 238. यहाँ पे लिखा है preface to 1990 edition.
मिल गया.
Okay. If you look at the last paragraph on the first page, fortunately, se jo start ho raha hai. What is he saying? This was written long ago in 1980s. में लिखी गई थी किताब, 1990 का edition है ये. And he is writing. He says, "My way has been one of accumulation, not of rejection." So he has tried to find ways of reconciling old beliefs with new ones, never consigning to perdition convictions or insights which in the past helped me to come to terms with the reality, even if they seem to conflict with what I now believe. So essentially what he's saying is that he wrote these, parts of this book when he was around 25. Okay? And he has sort of gathered everything together in the book eventually. He's not taken anything out because even if he believes something different, he's saying that I got to this, whatever state I am now in, due to my path, whatever my path was, thought process tha, ya whatever learning processes he had. So he wants to sort of save them all up and gather them instead of rejecting them. Okay? Acha. So what does he say? If this makes me inconsistent, so be it. Total truth is inexpressible. What does he say? Total truth is inexpressible. For the most part, we are obliged to deal with approximations, but in climbing our personal ladder, we need not kick away the rungs which supported us in our ascent. तो जो भी जिस तरह से भी इंसान ascension आपकी होती है over time, over age, you don't need to cut off whatever experiences, whatever knowledge, whatever previous thought processes you had. So you sort of take them together and you include that in your experience, right? In your any present day understanding of the experiences that you have.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Ji.
Here he is saying that you are not supposed to kick away the rungs which supported us in our stand. But as we move higher and higher and intellectually, those rungs become redundant of sorts.
Okay, so let's look at what he says, but you're saying that they become redundant. Okay? Now let's see if he is going to any sort of go with that understanding or if he has something else to say. Okay, let's see what he has to say now. So let's see if this is the question mark we're putting. So one of your class fellows is saying, aren't those previous thoughts or whatever you believed in, aren't those redundant now, right? When you grow in knowledge. Acha. So I think what he's trying to say, but let's look at what he says. But I think what he's trying to say is that you sort of make connections. Yani aapki jo, what happens is that your neurons in the brain, they're always, I don't know how to draw a neuron. If there's a biology student, something like this, I don't know. So the neurons are sort of making connections when you're learning something new जो आप पहले से जानते हैं, you use that knowledge and experience to make sense of whatever new things you are learning, ठीक है? Even if you're rejecting parts of it, you're not going to completely reject everything, ठीक है? You're going to take it as a subjective truth perhaps, or something that helped you discover the truth that you now believe in, for example, ठीक है? So next page, यानी कि पेज नंबर 3 है जो प्रीफेस का, ठीक है? He's saying letters began to arrive from people who had read the book and imagined that I was something I was not. I have been trying to picture what you are like, wrote one correspondent. I see you as an elderly man with a white beard meditating on a mountain in the Himalayas. As I had started on the essays at the age of 25, this was a little disconcerting. Others, clutching at a straw, had they but known it, asked for spiritual advice. I felt a fraud. Indeed, I was a fraud, but I began to understand for the first time the heavy responsibility which falls upon those who choose to write of anything other than trivial matters. So essentially, what is the book going to be about? Not trivial matters. That's what he's saying, right? So he's written about matters that are extremely significant, not trivial matters. And this is how the book became famous. Chale, if you go a bit down, I think last paragraph dekh lein, page 3 par hi, I was a little king in his castle, though I knew that nothing lasts and that my castle was built of sand. This surely was the human situation. All that is therein perishes and there remains only the face of thy Lord. This is Surah Rahman. ठीक है? Kullu man alayha fan wa yabqa wajhu rabbika dhul jalali wal ikram. So king of the castle, this is where he's getting the name from. Whether he's talking about himself, he's saying, I'm the king of my castle, which is made of sand, but also at the end of the day, God himself. Okay? So, with its undertone of irony and its reference to children's games on the seashore, that mighty all-engulfing sea struck me as the right title. But random reflections on the human condition need, like beads, to be strung on a connecting thread. Eliot had taught me that, and one balmy evening with the haze settling over the mountains and the palm leaves stirring gently in the breeze. So he's on a Jamaican island, which we skipped when he's completing the book.
कौन से पेज पे?
अब पेज नंबर 4 है, so it's going to go backwards. आपकी अगर आपने लेट लिया है पैकेज तो ये पेज बिल्कुल सही होंगे, और अगर आपने जल्दी ले लिया था so sadly you will have to go backwards. ठीक है? तो
सही मैम, थैंक यू.
या पैकेज के हिसाब से ये 240 पर है. हाँ,
कौन सी पैराग्राफ में मैम?
पेज 4 फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ.
ओके मैम, थैंक यू.
Okay, so it says, it became obvious that this thread should be the Islamic concept of man as God's viceroy. ये जो इसने इस्तेमाल किया word God's viceroy also means खलीफा, जो आप लोग yesterday आप पूछ रहे थे. One of the purposes of humans, ठीक है? From the Talk, Healing Self and Healing Society. Achha, on this beautiful but transient earth. In the process of writing, I began to reconvert myself to Islam, which may be why the book eventually brought others to the faith. So why does he use the word reconvert? Because some people say that you were born on the fitra and then you sort of revert to it.
There is also a song by Khalid Siddiq. He says that your faith goes through highs and lows. So don't fear, just keep on praying. And one day you reach a high, but that doesn't mean that you'll stay there.
Right.
And eventually you go through a low as well.
Right, bilkul sahi. Okay. Now let's skip to 12 years have passed. The last paragraph of the preface. We're going to go to the introduction now. Page 5, yes. Another 12 years have now passed and much water has flowed under many bridges. Should I have attempted to rewrite King of the Castle yet again? यानी काफी साल बदलने के बाद इंसान की सोच भी बदलती है, काफी चीजें बदलती हैं. So he's questioning, should I have rewritten it?
But he's saying much water has flowed under the bridges. Doesn't mean that many people have ignored his call to.
I think ये क्योंकि subject, it's more like an analogy. So it could mean other things as well. It could just mean कि आपका bridge, let's suppose
Under the bridge usually तब कहते हैं जब बात को side पे कर दिया गया.
उसने खुद कर दिया हो, ये भी हो सकता है. That's what he's saying. That a lot of things he has sort of let flow by, right? Should I have attempted to rewrite King of the Castle again? An impossible task. It would be a different book. But rereading it for the first time since publication, I am surprised to find how little I would wish to change, in spite of the momentous events of recent years. I will stand by what I wrote long ago and do so all the more readily because there are those who found some kind of satisfaction, some kind of answer to their uncertainties in King of the Castle. Do I dare with outrageous presumption to recall the title which Rumi gave to his discourses? Fihi ma fihi. So, what did Rumi call his discourses? That in it, what is in it? All right, so it's sort of playing on the words a lot. And then you have to go through it to understand what is in it, right? Acha, that at last says all that needs to be said about the book, but I will, I'm sorry, I still cannot say on which shelf it belongs. Yani, is it an ethics book? Is it philosophy? Is it religion? You can't really categorize it, which is why it took a long time for it to be printed. Okay? Yes. Okay, so introduction. Yes, Eaton. Introduction. If by some strange device a man of our century could step back, he's writing this in the 20th century. ठीक है ना? अब हम 21st century में हैं. And he's saying that a man of our century could step backwards in time and mix with the people of a distant age. He would have good cause to doubt either their sanity or his own. So first of all, do you agree with this? अगर आप past में जाए या कोई past में से future में आए, would it be?
Because everyone around them would be speaking so much different than what he would have heard in his own times.
So
Their morals would
पूरा
be
world
different.
view पूरा world view बदल जाता है, right? A lot of things change. So okay, mountains, forests, and the blue sky would look familiar enough, but they would not be seen by the people around him in the way he saw them. Their physical features might be the same, but their meaning would be different. He would know what common sense is and what constitutes human normality. So would the people amongst whom he found himself, but their common sense would differ from his, and their normality might seem to be abnormal. So, what is normal? ये जो question है ना, ये important है. What is normal? How do we define what is normal? Society बताती है, हम खुद बताते हैं.
Normally
He's
defined by the time in which it's set.
ठीक है, times
And
it will change
the
according to the times. ये भी है, ठीक है.
morals of
But
the
again,
society.
that's what you see. That's what he's saying. That's exactly what he's saying, right? कि वो according to the times, the normal will change. What do you view as normal? ठीक है.
But I think it's not only dependent on the time, but the view of the society as well. For example, you would be living in a very advanced
Mhm,
times where technology is very prevalent and humans have gone very far in the intellectual area, but still there will be radical people who say that only this should be done, and for them that's normal. Even though that mindset is of the dark ages or the old ages.
बिल्कुल ठीक. So there will be exceptional cases, but overall, जो society है, masses would be thinking in one manner, right? Questioning everything they took for granted and amazed that they should be so unquestioning in their assumptions. So essentially, what he's saying is if we go into the past or if somebody comes here from the past, the person who has time travel will be questioning. He will be questioning and then will be surprised or, about the people around him. How is it that they are not questioning what I'm questioning? So again, they're taking it as normal, but for me, I'm presented by questions, right? Is that my alarm? I think so. The rooster is like the best alarm. Okay.
But I think so. What he wrote is more connecting to what would have happened if a
To
person
their-
would have traveled in the past. Because then he would say that why are they accepting everything
Hmm.
without questioning it.
Without question.
Because that was more prevalent.
Yeah,
in the
but
society
actually
before.
he's also saying कि अगर past से कोई present में आए, so for example, कि past से कोई present में आए, तो यही जिस चीज को हम normal समझ रहे हैं ना, कि technology means that we have advanced. For example, he's going to present this later on. So what is the notion that we have? You know, because we can fly an aeroplane now, which they couldn't in the past. We are technologically advanced and we're intellectually advanced as well. Okay? So, but then there will be so many things that he thinks is abnormal. What is abnormal? Like people looking, like sitting in the same room and looking at a cell phone. Why aren't they talking to each other? Why aren't they saying, how are you? How was your day? यानी सामने बैठे हैं लेकिन सवाल नहीं कर रहे and they're just absorbed in something else, right? So for him this is going to be weird. अच्छा तो अब ये that's what he's saying. Third paragraph में we are not a new species and to compare our own worldview with any other is merely to compare different kinds of limitation. As though a man tunneling his way out of prison were to emerge within the perimeter, exchanging oneself for another. So that's just again another analogy. He's saying, so it must always be unless the prisoner learns that freedom lies in quite another direction, never through the tunnel of time. एक और बात इसने यहाँ पे कर दी. एक बात ये कर दी कि it doesn't matter which times you live in. The freedom that every human being wants is not in the time. It doesn't matter if we're in the modern world or अगर हम पास में चले जाएं तो किसी मुसीबत में पड़ जाएं. Yeah, vice versa. He's saying freedom is in some other direction, and he's hinting to the vertical direction. और ये बाद में बात आएगी vertical direction वाली. So not in the horizontal, time frame, rather in the vertical direction. This is the introduction, first page of the introduction. आपकी package के हिसाब से 241 है. Yes, thank you, Umayma. अच्छा. थोड़ा सा fast forward, मतलब forward, let's go onwards and I will start from so next page, no one can extricate himself in the middle of the page somewhere. No one can extricate himself completely from the conditioning of his own period. अच्छा नहीं चलें इससे पहले वाला intention पढ़ लें. That my intention in this book is to take a long, hard look at some of the basic assumptions of our age, to question the unquestionable, and to cast doubt upon propositions which appear self-evident. This cannot be done without at the same time suggesting the outlines of quite a different perspective. क्योंकि हम कुछ चीज़ों को for granted ले लेते हैं and we just view them as the truth, ठीक है? But we're not looking at other perspectives, so we have to look at other perspectives in order to look at our propositions from another angle, from a third person's view. Okay? So one can extricate himself no one can, extricate himself completely from the conditioning of his own period and environment. Consciously or unconsciously, we are all of us to some extent held captive by the clinging vines of our particular jungle and at home in these bonds. They are indeed like extensions of ourselves and correspond to deeply rooted habits of thought and of feeling. It is not easy to break free, but precisely because we are human, it is not impossible. ये बड़ा important sentence है. So he is saying, एक तो ये कि thought and feeling जो इंसान की है, they are very deeply rooted. Thoughts and feelings, ठीक है? They make up who we are essentially, right? However, he's saying, but just the fact that we are human means that we can change them. To be human means that we can change ourselves. So, free will की बात भी आ रही है, and this is also again, my favorite example, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The entire book is written on the premise that a person can change. It's all about changing for the better. How to, what are those 7 habits that make you an effective person? तो वो habit अपने अंदर कैसे लेकर आनी है? मतलब कोई इंसान अगर किताब पढ़े और वो कहे कि लेकिन ये habits तो मेरे अंदर नहीं है, that is why I am not so efficient. What do I do? कि मतलब मेरे अंदर तो ये नहीं है, that's it, right? But no, the entire book is written with the notion that you can acquire these habits.
But habits are dependent on the person's nature.
अच्छा, so again यही बात है ना, habit, actually habit को define करें तो एक ऐसी चीज़ है जो आप consistently करते हैं, ठीक है? And yes, according to your nature, some things, some habits will come naturally to you, easy only. However, that is exactly what, you know, he's also suggesting, and at least that book also suggests that you can acquire habits by working on them. Exactly. Okay, next page 5. Okay, so page number 10. Page number 10 of the book, and package ka 243 hai, page 243. In any case, yes, obsessive concern with the future of the human race is a uniquely modern phenomenon. अब ये एक एग्जाम्पल हम देख लेते हैं कि आजकल हम फ्यूचर के बारे में कितना सोचते हैं, ठीक है? सो अ पर्सन हु कम्स फ्रॉम द पास्ट फॉर एग्जाम्पल विल क्वेश्चन इट कि ये लोग इतना क्यों सोच रहे हैं, आज तक रहें बस, जस्ट थिंक अबाउट टुडे, इट इज़ वेरी हार्ड फॉर अस, राइट? So to plan for the future, to think about the future, how much should a person do that? इसमें ये भी नहीं है कि आप कोई भी सेविंग ना कर रहे हो या कोई प्रेपरेशन ना कर रहे हो, ऐसी बात भी नहीं है. But how much importance are we giving to the future? We can live and live well without optimism, and for that matter, without the pessimism of so-called doomsters who are, for the most part, only disappointed optimists. ये बड़ा sarcastic. Sometimes you enjoy the sarcasm that he's. What is he saying here? कह रहे, पहली बात तो वो कह रहे जरूरत ही नहीं है ऑप्टिमिज्म की, आप इंसान जो है वो अच्छी जिंदगी गुजार सकते हैं ऑप्टिमिज्म के बगैर. क्या है वो ये रहा है, लेकिन आगे देखिए क्या मतलब कि why is he saying this? If you complete the sentence, he's saying, for that matter, without the pessimism of so-called doomsters, who are for the most part only disappointed optimists. And who is a pessimist? Yani essentially
Someone who thinks that everything is
negative,
negatively.
बिल्कुल,
The
मतलब
opposite
gloomy.
of optimism.
Opposite of optimism. He is saying, however, that a pessimist is a disappointed optimist. Yani essentially, yeah, again, you need to think about it. How do you understand what he's saying? But what it seems like is that he's talking about two extremes. He's saying that pessimism भी extreme है और optimism भी extreme है. और pessimist इंसान बनता ही तब है जबकि वो optimist होता है, वो खुद optimist है, passionate है,
Disappointed.
और वो disappoint होता है तो वो pessimist बन जाता है. Delusion हो जाएगी, बिल्कुल सही. So he is essentially saying, why not be moderate, be in the middle? Yes, bilkul. Okay, so these are sentimentalities we can ill afford under present conditions, and particularly from the Islamic point of view, they have no real meaning. The Muslim does not easily forget that as men and women, we are all doomed, since we must surely die. Okay? And that societies, civilizations, and worlds are equally mortal. Everything that is upon the earth passes away, and there remains only the face of thy Lord, infinite in glory and infinite in bounty. Eternity is one, and one alone is eternal. This is, in a sense, is all we need to know, and indeed the sensible man, though he may pretend a fashionable concern for the human future, behaves much like an actor who cares little how long the theater in which he is playing will stand after the play is done. Moreover, for the Muslim, as for the Christian of earlier times, ये जब भी mention करता है तो Christian of earlier times mention करता है. Suggesting that the Christians of modern age, जो कि आगे उसकी किताब में clear होता है, they have let go of their beliefs. यानी वो एक बिल्कुल नया इंसान है.
They've changed
Yes.
their book,
Yes.
and in the same way they've changed their morals.
This earth and all its people are in the hands of God, whose will is unchangeable, and it's scarcely. अब ये again देखिए free will predestination का जो concept है वो बार-बार आपको आएगा नजर. कई मर्तबा like people write about it in different ways. The reality is the same, however, it's explained or expressed in different ways. So यहाँ पे ऐसे लग रहा है whose will is unchangeable sort of sounds like there is no at all, यानी कि कोई भी नहीं है, मुअल्लक तकदीर भी नहीं है, and it's like it sounds deterministic. However, we're going to give him benefit of the doubt because a lot of times, because of taqdeer, इंसान ऐसा sentence कह देता है, but actually a person knows that free will फिर भी है. You're believing in that unchanged will, but you still believe in that because he just said it. He just said change ki usne baat ki hai, right? That to be human means you can change. So acha, so and it scarcely matters whether he means us to continue for 1,000 years or for 100 or to enjoy our final dawn tomorrow, since since all things must take their course and all is ultimately well disposed. Actually जो मुसलमान यानी था, बल्कि अब हमारे लिए पुराने ज़माने पुराना ही हमें भी कहना चाहिए Muslims of earlier times, okay? But what they believed in ultimately, all matters, all affairs, all things are ultimately well disposed. ये जो एक यकीन पुराने मुसलमान का होता था, ये उसको सुकून देता था. This was the source of peace which we don't have today because we feel like we're not in good hands. ठीक है? We don't have that trust in God. अच्छा. Our business is to fulfill here and now, the last sentence of the paragraph. Our business is to fulfill here and now the function we were born to fulfill. So he's talking about the present. The present is a gift. That is why we call it present. It's very important actually. Or meditation maybe, or even salah, prayer, namaz. ये सारी चीजें ये हैं कि आपको present की तरफ मुतवज्जो करती हैं. What can you do in the present? Do not live in the past, neither in the future, but the present. Acha. Next page, any page number 11. He's going to give an example of a bubble. He's going to be talking about the world, or let's say dunya. And if you remember yesterday, I told you that dunya, jo terminological definition iski aati hai in religion, it is anything that is an obstacle. In our paths or in our journey to God. Okay? So anything that is an obstacle. So again, wealth may or may not be. किसी के पास अगर कोई रिक्शा है, वो उसके लिए दुनिया हो सकती है. It might make him so oblivious of what is really important, his divine nature, his connection to God, and he might just be wanting to यानी earn, you know, वो जो basic necessities हैं वो पूरी करना चाह रहा है, and he's just spending the entire day with the rickshaw, for example. However, it could be completely opposite as well. He's going about doing his daily, you know, whatever chores, whatever duties and responsibilities he has, but also remembering that his relationship with God is most important. So दुनिया define ही ऐसे होती है कि क्या आप, is it becoming an obstacle in your relationship with God or not? Any terminological definition here. ठीक है? अच्छा खाए. What does he say about the world? Let us imagine a summer landscape bounded only by our limited vision, but in truth unbounded, a landscape of hills and valleys, forests and rivers, but containing also every feature that an inventive mind might bring to thought. Let us suppose that somewhere in this measureless extension, a child has been blowing bubbles for the sheer joy of seeing them carried on the breeze, catching the sunlight. The shuru mein jo explanation diya, it sounds like Jannah, because he's saying anything that the mind might bring. Okay? Then he's saying a child is playing and blowing bubbles. And then let us compare all that we know of the world, of our world, the earth and what it contains, the sun, the moon and the stars, to one such bubble, a single one. तो ये सारे जो bubbles blow कर रहे हैं, एक imagine करें कि उसमें से एक bubble ऐसा है जो हमारा पूरा universe है, as we know it. ठीक है? It is there in our imagined landscape. It exists, but it is a very small thing, and in a few moments it is gone. So he's comparing this entire reality, huge reality, जिसमें आप सबसे खूबसूरत चीज भी imagine कर सकते हैं, and then these bubbles which are just going to pop in a few moments. तो वो एक bubble है जो हमारा पूरा universe है. This at least is one way of indicating the traditional, or taking the world in its widest sense, the religious view of our world and of how it is related to all that lies beyond it. The bubble skin, I'm going to skip one sentence only. The bubble skin reflects what lies outside and is at the same time transparent. So the reason he's using, I think, the example of a bubble is because it also reflects. उसमें पूरी आपकी यानी reflection आपको नजर आती है of whatever is around it. ठीक है? So he's saying that in this universe, you can see reflections of the perfect world beyond this physical universe. Those who live within may be aware of the landscape in quite different ways. Those whose sight is weak or untrained may still surmise its existence, and believing what they are told by others who see more clearly, have faith in it. क्या कह रहे हैं यहाँ पे? Those who live within that other world, उनकी जो awareness है वो बहुत मुख्तलिफ है हमारे से जो हम बबल के अंदर हैं, ठीक है? And some of us who are weak or untrained may still understand a little bit of its existence and believe what they are told by others who see more clearly. So he's alluding to the prophets who see clearly more than us, right? Acha, secondly, there are some.
इनका फिर ज़्यादा strong होता है, इनका vision उसको उस bubble से बाहर तक ले सकता है,
Yes.
नहीं होता उनको लगता है कि bubble opaque है.
Bilkul. Secondly, there are some who will perceive within the bubble itself reflections of what lies outside and begin to realize that everything within is neither more nor less than a reflection and has no existence in its own right. Thirdly, as by a miracle of sight, there will be a few for whom transparency is real and actual. Their vision pierces the thin membrane which to others seems opaque, and beyond faith, they see what is to be seen. So Khair, he's distinguishing these three kinds of people, okay, how they differ greatly. I'm going to go to the next page, page 13. Second paragraph, there is a saying of the Prophet Muhammad, which again underlines the difference of proportion between the world. ये आपने सुना होगा कि अगर आप एक उंगली अपनी समंदर में डालें तो उसके ऊपर जो भी drops आएंगे, that is like the world compared to the ocean, which is the hereafter. ठीक है? So let him consider what he brings out on it, on the finger. Between droplet and ocean, there can be no common measure. So no one would, of course, suggest that every believer of earlier times, Muslim, Christian, or Hindu, was aware of the disproportion between the world of his day-to-day experience and the surrounding ocean of reality. Ab wo ye keh raha hai ki it doesn't matter, you can be a pious person, a good person, despite not really having, a very clear sense of that reality. ठीक है ना? Or even that piety necessarily requires such awareness. But the bedrock truth of a religious doctrine is not established by holding an opinion poll among its adherents. The moment the idea of a revealed religion presents itself, the moment we speak of God or of the supernatural, properly understood, this disproportion is implied and it colors all that is said or thought. Take it away and you remove the fulcrum upon which the whole structure revolves. You are left with a religion that is little more than sentimental idealism, idle daydreaming or wishful thinking, worldly religion on the same level as the secular ideology. So what is he saying here? Anyone online? जब भी हम रिलीजन की बात करें या गॉड की बात करें, what is coloring the thoughts? यानी ये जो color है आपके, interestingly in the Quran there's a word sibghatullah, which means the color of Allah. So what is he saying? What colors, the thought process of such a person is the disproportion. समझ आई? यानी कि ये reality है ना कि ये दुनिया और जो next दुनिया है उसमें कितना बड़ा disproportion है. Everything that, the entire worldview changes when you have this in mind. In a period of history which readily makes an idol of knowledge. तो किस चीज़ को idol कह रहे हैं? जब हमने बुद्ध की बात की थी when we were doing your Vision of Islam reading, right? तो वो कह रहे हैं कि knowledge को उन्होंने बुद्ध बना लिया. The fact that we are so knowledgeable today and in which people treat with derision the ignorance of past ages. तो ये है ना आजकल बहुत common एक understanding है that we are at a level where when the previous generations were not there. So we have sort of evolved and we've become better, and belittle किया जाता है ignorance of the past ages को, ठीक है, कि they were quote unquote jahil and only we are knowledgeable. And
The same way the Arabis used to be very, let's say, confident on their language skills and would have called everyone Ajmi.
yes,
Deaf.
right, बिल्कुल, यानी अपने उस जो भी whatever they have as it could be knowledge, यानी आजकल का मॉडर्न इरा का जो बुत है ना, ये आइडल जो है वो है नॉलेज, the modern age. So yes, like you're saying that the Quraysh or the Arabs, they thought that because they had reached this level of even literacy maybe बहुत ज़्यादा high थे. So just they took that as something that they could be proud of. It's the Arabic word for it is ujub, when you are conceited. थोड़ा बहुत conceit से related है, or you sort of attribute it to yourself completely. Attribution to self. Ghurur. Acha. The extent and depth of this ignorance, not only of religion in general and its metaphysical basis, but even of quite this is the middle of the paragraph, but even of quite elementary aspects of their own religion, if they claim to have one, among educated people might be compared to the ignorance of nuclear physics one would expect to find among the pygmies of Zaire. अच्छा, अब वो ये कह रहे हैं कि अब मॉडर्न एज में जो भी इंसान किसी भी रिलीजन से अपने आप को जोड़ता है, वो कहता है मैं फलां रिलीजन से हूँ, उस इंसान का उस रिलीजन के बारे में जो नॉलेज है वो उतना ही इग्नोरेंट है जितना कि कोई पास्ट में न्यूक्लियर फिजिक्स के बारे में होगा, ठीक है. And yet they have no hesitation in expressing firm and even dogmatic opinions on the subject. ठीक है. In Britain, अच्छा चलें Britain इसको skip करते हैं, page number 14. Page 14 में second paragraph. If in the course of this book I appear to dismiss a great deal of modern thought with something less than the respect and attention it is assumed to merit, this is not least because these thinkers have seen fit to dismiss equally casually all that has been considered until quite recently by the wisest and noblest men whose records are known to us, to give weight and validity to human thinking. तो वो ये कह रहे हैं कि ह्यूमन थिंकिंग को जो चीज़ एक वेट देती थी, क्या थी वो, यानी कि जितने भी तमाम नोबल एंड वाइज इंसान गुजरे हैं इन द पास्ट, and we have knowledge about them, उनकी records हैं, you can find it in the books. जिस चीज़ को वो weight और validity देते थे, उसको आज जो modern man जिस तरह से नज़रअंदाज कर देता है and throw it behind their backs, right? उसी तरह वो कह रहे हैं कि मैंने भी modern thought को शायद किया है इस किताब में, but I am doing it because last sentence क्या है? Those who refuse to listen should not expect to be heard. So he's sort of again थोड़ा sarcastic हो रहा है and थोड़ा सा he's sort of taking it out, ठीक है, retaliation में. वो कह रहे हैं कि भाई वो because they think that they're so awesome and amazing and that everybody in the past was a nobody. So I can do the same. If you look at my perspective, this is how I am looking at modern thought. So he's sort of questioning it now. Okay? I do not mean to suggest that theoretic knowledge is a prerequisite of faith or that a man cannot love God unless he is a philosopher. So again, ये जो कलाम हमने अभी पढ़ा था, philosophy, all these ways to sort of answer these questions, right? These are not 100% necessary. A person can just love God even without these. Okay? But we need it actually. The modern man definitely needs all of it. Kyun? But the simple believer of earlier times who knew very little yet possessed great faith could scarcely survive in the modern world, bombarded ceaselessly with arguments of unbelief. तो हमारी ईमान के लिए आजकल ज़रूरी है. हमारी ईमान के लिए we're not this simple type of believers जो एक ज़माने में like अगर आप village में जाएं और अगर कोई true believer मिले, unfortunately from an example of the Tablighi Jamaat, they say that in the villages they don't know anything actually about Islam. It's pretty sad. Not all of them, but a lot of the villages they have zero idea. सिर्फ नाम के मुसलमान हैं. But imagine यानी एक स्टोरी कोई सुनाता है, I don't even know if it's true or not, but like एक बूढ़ा आदमी अपने दोस्त को कह रहे हैं कि अल्लाह मेरा है, यानी कि my Allah is mine, like God is mine, right? And he's saying no, God is mine. So you know how like you're fighting over who is my best friend or he's my best friend. तो ये वाली जो मोहब्बत है ना, ये नहीं आज मिलती है. मॉडर्न मैन में ये मोहब्बत नहीं है, ठीक है. So he's saying for today's modern man, you need these arguments, you need, you know, all of this discussion about these intellectual philosophical concepts. Doctrinal knowledge has become almost essential for those who would hold fast to their religion against the tide. 100 years ago, a man could be a good Christian and remain so without ever having heard of Saint Augustine. Ignorant faith was protected and therefore sufficed. Today, a Christian who does not have some knowledge of the doctrines upon which his faith is founded stands in mortal peril unless protected by an impregnable simplicity. ये जो यहाँ पे simplicity की बात आई है ना, ये हमारा next reading में we're gonna come back to this.
इसका मतलब क्या है कि हम Christian today who does not have some knowledge of the doctrine.
Sorry, question क्या? थोड़ा सा दोबारा.
यानी आपने today Christian who does not have some knowledge. ये what is it?
कि यानी आज का जो चाहे मुसलमान है चाहे क्रिश्चियन, एनीबडी हु वांट्स टू बी कनेक्टेड टू एनी फेथ, ठीक है, उसके लिए ज़रूरी है कि वो अपनी जो थियोलॉजिकल डॉक्ट्रिन है उसके बारे में उसको मालूम होना ज़रूरी है, वो नॉलेज ज़रूरी है. वरना एक ज़माने में विदाउट हैविंग एनी नॉलेज जस्ट सिंपल फेथ इन गॉड एंड लव फॉर गॉड वाज इनफ, क्योंकि कोई उसमें कोई अटैक नहीं था, किसी तरफ से अटैक नहीं. nobody saw it as an issue. Nowadays it's a big issue. How do you believe in this God? Why are you believing in it? Because what did somebody say कि it is the opium of the masses. Religion is the opium of the masses. ये कहा गया ना. अब ये कितनी sad बात है, क्योंकि they're basically saying what do drugs do? Drugs basically they numb the pain. ठीक है, वो क्या कर रहे हैं, drugs क्या करते हैं,
But it's
I mean yeah, I mean fleeting satisfaction, but it's not satisfaction, it's actually numbing. Yani you are forgetting whatever pain you have, whatever responsibilities you have, whatever truth there is, आप उसमें से कट जाते हैं और आप निकल जाते हैं, ठीक है. And then again it's temporary, so you're waiting for the next one. So they are saying that religion is, हालांकि religion क्या कर रहा है कि वो आपको reality के अंदर मजबूत कर रहा है. यानी you are dealing with death, you're supposed to deal with it, ठीक है. When you deal with it, you're supposed to cry over it. You're supposed to accept your pain, process your pain, understand that life is all about pain and joy. But बात ये है कि how can you call it opium of the masses? So it's again, yani it's not a knowledgeable statement because they don't understand what religion is. At least not Islam, at least. Whoever said, I forgot, Marx ने कहा था किसने, I completely forgot. Karl Marx ने शायद. I'm not sure though, I might be wrong.
Right?
Yes, but I'm not sure. I'm just maybe somebody online knows. मुझे याद नहीं है.
It was founder of communism, I think. Karl, right?
इतना अरसा हो गया, I seriously don't remember, but he was, I think, not communism. दूसरा जो है, what do you call it? सबसे पहला वाला. Does anyone remember who he, what thought he was the founder of? No, the opposite of that. जिसमें I can't even remember the names anymore. No. Not even anyone online. Okay, maybe somebody else. Marxism. Marxism ही कहा जाता है.
Communism. Yeah, yes. I was like, no, Karl Marx.
There was another word for it.
What?
Marxism को explain करने के लिए wasn't there another word, or is that the only one? चलें, I can't remember. I need to go back and revise it all.
For what? A word for what?
यानी his thought process, जो उसका सारा Marxism.
Like the thought process of atheists, I think. Like,
No, there's another word I'm looking for, but maybe I'm. चलें, thank you. हाँ, communism was derived from Marxism. So was it Karl Marx who said this? ये किसी को याद है? I think so, but चलें. अच्छा, so where were we?
ये देखो आइडियोलॉजी बनाई कार्ल मार्क्स ने थी और उसको प्रोपेगेट बड़े-बड़े लोगों ने किया जैसे स्टॉलिन वगैरह।
So it's page 246 of your package and 16, page number 16 of the book.
Yes, Karl Marx himself said this, religion is the opium of the people.
Mm-hmm.
And
तो सॉरी आपका नाम क्या है?
yeah, religion is das opium des Volkes.
अच्छा, आपका नाम क्या है?
Afan.
Afan. So Afan has googled it for us. So it is Karl Marx who said that. And but Marxism.
Hegel's philosophy of right.
चलें. Then Marxism. Acha, so page number 256 and page 16 of the book itself, middle of the page, second paragraph, yes. Today, the dividing line between mutually irreconcilable views between belief and unbelief has become blurred, and neither faith nor infidelity are followed through to their logical conclusions. अच्छा, तो एक ज़माने में क्या था कि बिलीफ और अनबिलीफ बहुत बहुत क्लियर थे, वाज़ेह थे और बहुत डिफरेंस था उसमें. उसका लॉजिकल कंक्लूजन ये क्या था कि फॉर एग्जांपल इफ यू आर अ बिलीवर you will see it in their actions, ठीक है. Similarly, unbelief also resulted in particular actions, ठीक है. However, अब आज क्या हो गया, blur हो गया है. So you will have a non-believer who will be a very good person, ठीक है.
But a believer who is pathetic.
Yeah, so yes, exactly. तो ये मसला है, ठीक है. It has become blurred और वो logical conclusion जो होनी चाहिए थी वहाँ तक पहुँचता नहीं इंसान. There is a kind of twilight region inhabited by the many who are neither believers nor unbelievers, but are carried along by the tide of these times while daylight lasts. There must, they think, be something beyond all this, but they doubt whether anybody really knows what this something might be, and seem quite unaware of great voices still audible, telling them precisely what it is, and summoning them to attend as a man attends when he stands in mortal peril. Living in a culture which has become in its very nature the kafir's cloak of darkness, nothing that lies outside their little pool of light seems quite real. And if they think of divine reality at all, they think of it as something ghostly, abstract, attenuated. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. The desert sun no longer scorches or dazzles. So he gave this example जो हमने नहीं पढ़ा, desert sun के बारे में कि जो truth है या anything that is sacred. It's like the desert sun which dazzles you.
Yes, it's
You can't
very
ignore it.
bright, you
Huh.
can't ignore it, but at the same time, you remove it from your reality because it disturbs your views, so that you can still show that you're unaware, but at the end of the day,
You can't ignore it.
as it is.
अच्छा. That's a
Because
nice
it
way
is
to look
being
at it.
seen
You're
by
saying
everyone
you're
that
saying वैसे it's a different idea that you're presenting. It's interesting. यहाँ पे वो ये कह रहा है लेकिन कि it's supposed to be so obvious, right? लेकिन आजकल it's like there and people, and maybe that's what you were saying and maybe I didn't get it. लेकिन ये कि it's there and people view it as a very abstract thing and they're not dazzled by it. So the emotion or the feeling that you're getting from that reality is completely different from what it used to be.
Scorches or dazzles means it's there and it's very bright, but until and unless you accept it as it is, it won't hurt you nor enlighten you. If you like just ignore it or show that you are unaware of it, then you will not get its benefits, and you won't, but you will be at a loss. I don't get it. No, but it's saying that it neither scorches nor dazzles. In the
Neither
same way
any-
how like a person would read Quran and still be like going on the wrong path, like there was a Islamic scholar, I don't remember his name, but a person questioned him that Jesus Christ is more, these are more referencing Quran than your own prophet. Then why are you like following Islam? Why don't you come to Christianity? And he searched his Quran and he found out that yes, it was true. So what he did, he changed his religion. And then his answer came afterwards in which he said that not only Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was referenced more in Quran, he was done so abstractly, like he was there at the time of the creation of all the universe, and he was also presented with more miracles than any other prophet. So even still, he didn't change his religion. So in the same way, something very enlightening can also cause you to derail from your own path, but that is because of yourself and how you perceive that thing. In the same way, if you perceive this sun as scorching, you will run away from it, or you will find shelter from it, because you think or you perceive it as something of danger.
बिल्कुल सही.
In the same way, if a person thinks of Islam as something dangerous to his beliefs or his thoughts, it is his fault and he runs away from it. But that's the problem. He doesn't like think of it as a whole or think of the whole picture.
डर जाता है पहले.
Who does that? Because you think that it will make him a terrorist, or he will become very radical. He would not think of equality or
या कंफ्यूज हो जाएगा और दूर हो जाएगा दीन से. That's possible. चलें ये भी that's a yes, thank you. अच्छा input है. And I think how much time do we have? We just have 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you for taking the 8:30.
You are welcome. So you have trials up coming up. You're going to go to main Abi for the trials. So चलें ये हम last जो 5 minutes हैं ये last paragraph करते हैं. Page है 17 246 का ही right side में. ये 5th line है second paragraph की. The further people have drifted from the truth. ठीक है 5th line. The further people have drifted from the truth, the greater is the temptation to water down the truth, glossing over its less palatable aspects, and in short, allowing a policy of compromise to become one of adulteration. In this way, it is hoped that the common man, if he can be found, will be encouraged to find a small corner in his busy life for religion without having to change his ways or to grapple with disturbing thoughts. It is a forlorn hope, standing as it were at the pavement's edge with his tray of goods. The priest reduces the price until he is offering his wares for nothing. Divine judgment is a myth, hell is a wicked superstition, and prayer is less important than decent behavior. And God himself dispensable in the last resort. And still the passers-by go their way, sorry over having to ignore such a nice man, but with more important matters demanding their attention. And yet, these matters with which they are most urgently concerned are, for so many of them, quicksands in which they feel themselves trapped. Had they been offered a real alternative, a rock firm planted from the beginning of time, they might have been prepared to pay a high price. यहाँ पे उसने allude किया है towards the religion, right? Which he chose. It is even possible, had the priest turned his back upon them, attending only to the divine sun, which seizes and holds his gaze, they might have come up quietly behind him, knelt down, looking where he looks, and forgotten all their care and all their troubles. It might be said that the basic command of religion is not do this or do not do that, but simply look and the rest follows. So we'll end here, inshallah. Chale, anyone online have a question? I hope कि आधे लोग सो ना रहे online. At home they might fall asleep because it's so early in the morning.
No, miss, we have
No,
all
no,
our
no,
classes at
no
8:30.
Okay. Chale, ठीक है. If no questions, then we will end here. Since I have to go to the other class, unfortunately it's not in the same class, तो वहाँ जाके फिर setup करना पड़ता है. So I will head out and get the setup done in Amman Tower. ठीक है, तो अस्सलाम वालेकुम and see you. Acha, next, by the way, next Friday I had to make this announcement. Next Friday, the class will be online at 10 a.m. Because I will not be in Karachi. My brother, younger brother, is getting married, so I have to go to Lahore for that. Inshallah. Thank you.
skip the classes.
No, I don't want to. वो मेरा ही नुकसान होगा. We'll have to make it up later. But Friday we can have it. Saturday I will not be able to take it, but I will give you some assignment, any classwork or something, and I'll let you know.
Okay, miss.
Inshallah.
Okay, miss.
Now the time of life starts.
Hafiz.